what it is or what it isn't.
I'm not even sure I would call it leaked video because it's kind of not even new. There's multiple sightings to talk about, going back years, but the truth is out there, and now possibly more actual video evidence to go with it. Roll it. The U.S. Department of Defense has confirmed this video taken in 2019 is the real deal. A legit UFO, meaning unidentified flying object, not necessarily alien in nature, but unidentified. Pentagon has confirmed that unidentified flying objects moving through the clouds were taken by Navy personnel, and the military's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force is investigating these three strange air or space craft. One appears to be a triangle, another shaped like an acorn, and another one is described as a metallic blimp, which moves like a rocket. Now, some experts say it's time to embrace science fiction as nonfiction.
I know it's hard for people to really, wrap their head around it, but it is real. That's no longer a point of conjecture at this point. We are well beyond that. The question is, what is it and how does it work? And that's hopefully the report will shed some light into those questions.
Remember the last time that we talked about this, the object was moving in a way that defied physics. Beyond confirming the phenomena is unexplained, the DoD will not provide additional information for security reasons because, Roswell and Area 51 and all that. However, we expect to learn a whole lot more when a report on the unidentified flying objects are handed over to Congress on June 1st. A deadline sneaked into a COVID relief bill, of all things. Seems kind of appropriate for 2021, maybe 2020 as well.
Very interesting new developments in the last couple of days on UFOs. And yes, UFOs as much as I want to. Not that she's against it. Not that she's against it. I'm just very into it. Okay, so this all started out on a website called The Debrief. Let's throw this up there. So The Debrief, very interesting news organization on science, tech, and aerospace, spoke with a lot of U.S. military and intelligence officials about the UAPTF. Now, I want everybody to take that in. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. Now, this task force, we've talked a lot about that here, that's what is working with Congress and the Intelligence Committee. Well, it turns out, according to The Debrief, they spoke with a bunch of officials about a new report that's been circulating around the Pentagon and within the intelligence community. Now, I'm going to read some direct quotes to everyone. Everyone The Debrief spoke with said that the most striking feature of a recent report was the inclusion of a new, extremely clear photograph of an unidentifiable triangular aircraft. Now, yesterday, The Debrief published these photos. So the first one, let's go back to that first one, and you can see clearly it was taken with a cell phone camera from an aircraft. This was an FA-18 fighter pilot, and it was captured somewhere over the ocean. I also want to explain here the behavior. So two officials that received that report said, quote, the photo was taken after the triangular craft emerged from the ocean and began to ascend straight upwards at a 90-degree angle. So Ryan, you've had the privilege of being here and having participated now in 2 UFO segments. Your reaction to this news, real bombshell stuff, man.
This is amazing stuff. And what's amazing to me too about it is my inability to believe it. Like I could, they could walk on stage with a couple of aliens who would start talking, and that's not happening. There's some type of mental block that I have that just doesn't allow me to go there, even though. I can't do the math, but I know other people can do the math and show that the probabilities are such that if you have this, infinite galactic, historical timeline before you, that the probability is that, of course, we're not the only place where life could develop, and if life can develop, you can have intelligent life, and if you can have intelligent life, you can figure out space travel. We figured it out. I want to know a lot more about what was going on underneath the ocean, this thing flying out of it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we've got ex-Air Force personnel who've testified that UFOs have actually deactivated nukes. One of the things I forgot to mention, Commander David Fravor talked about, is that one of the UFOs that came into contact with a U.S. Air Force plane actually jammed their radar, technically an act of war. And what's important to acknowledge about all this is that part about the ocean, this is now consistent with a couple of different verified accounts of U.S. military personnel that are encountering this. And Ryan, you and I were talking before the segment. In some cases now, nuclear attack submarines are said to have encountered some of these vehicles under the ocean. And I remind everybody, the Tic Tac one in 2005 was actually observed, by Commander Fravor, saying that it might have been communicating with something in the subsurface. So this isn't just something which is aerial necessarily. This is just something that kind of because it defies the laws of physics, it just changes the way that we think about flying. I mean, whenever you have a propulsion system which doesn't require like air and burning air, you fly just same underwater as you do in the air. Are you a ship? Like, I don't know.
Are there other theories that the Army is throwing out, or the military is throwing out, as to what else could be going on here?
Great question. In terms of the military, they don't mention any. Now, in the debrief article, what they talk about is something called a weather dropsonone, and that is like a triangular-ish, I wish I had a picture that I could throw up here, I should have thought about that, which is attached by string to a larger weight. And the reason why they generally think they can rule that out is because the string and the weight are not attached in terms of that triangular phenomena. The other one people were talking about is a mylar balloon. That's been the case in several different ones. That one, look, I don't have an explanation. It's certainly possible. What I would say is, I do not think an FA-18 fighter pilot takes out his cell phone to take a photo of something when it's a mylar balloon. I just think that given the amount of time that these guys spend up there in the air, we're talking about tens of thousands of hours of airtime, of so much more, they know how to distinguish between something that they believe to be something emerging from the ocean and going at a right 90-degree angle, and like a mylar balloon, which is just like going around. So, look, I mean, this is...
We're back with Richard Southern. And Richard, there's no shortage of intriguing stories to chat about today. Let's begin with something that many Canadians are struggling to explain.
Turns out, Erica, UFO sightings are through the roof during the pandemic here in Canada. So maybe we've got more time to look up into the sky, or maybe there's actually something going on up there. New report from ufology research says sightings of unidentified flying objects across Canada, like levitating discs, erratic spaceships, and floating triangles, increased 46% in 2020 over 2019 levels. There were 1,243 recorded sightings last year, a record for Canada, 30% of the sightings taking place right here in Ontario. And before you go and call all these people crackpots, Erica, we've talked about the fact that the U.S. government has admitted that its military pilots have recorded, things they can't explain, craft moving, defying the laws of physics, and the Pentagon due to release a report before June 1st detailing what the U.S. government knows. So who knows, there might be something to this. You see a lot of strange things. You got to look at me every day, right, Erica?
No, not at all. But I will say for the UFO part of it, I think a small percentage are actually unexplained. The rest of them you can sort of